Are are we live? Yes, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Saturday stream. And as you can all see, with Saturday, we are rolling our way right back into some Dungeons and Dragons. Not only that, but today we are looking to do our third and likely final session of building the Milford estate. Hey there, hot pizza rolls. How's it going? Sour cake. Glad to see you are bright and early as always. How is everybody doing? How's everyone's weekends going? And who's excited to finish up the Milford estate? Hey, Hero Graves, how you doing? I need to chat with you sometime, actually. Chat is very eager for me to, I guess, arrange the Avengers before my next Monster Hunter stream, and I've got some questions for you. Woo woo! Heist hype, heist hype. Alrighty then. Seems we've got everybody in. People are excited and hyped up. So let's take a look at what we've got planned today. So today, as I said, we're going to go back into the final part of building the Milford estate. The third floor, which is going to be one of the most important, as here is where we are going to be keeping the gold that the party is after. Of course, we also have one last detail I would like everyone's help with finalizing and building today. And that is the personality, goals, and wishes of the captain in this city of the Comte de Batgarde, Capitan Telaros. A very interesting man, I'm sure, as you all will be helping me decide quite a few of his personality traits. But, before we can get into any of that, we're going to be starting today off with just a bit of a recap, particularly for those of you who are either only showing up for the first time, have missed one of the building streams, or simply need a bit of a catch-up at this stage. You're right, though. We are missing the cat. 1 second. Don't worry, Sour. I'll bring it back. Oh, there we go. 1 second. Ah, there we go. And with that, I believe we are ready to go over our recap. So, in fact, we'll have to be starting with just the smallest bit of story time today. Thank goodness, I was worried. Yeah. The first thing we have to discuss today is what is happening with the party after their last session. What is the cat's name? You all are going to have to tell me what the cat's name is. I didn't spawn him in here, so I believe this has to be a cat of one of the soldiers, and as you all have been helping me build out some of the pieces of this world, you're going to be having to tell me what the name of the big white cat is. Unless we want to name it Perfecto. But in my campaign, the party has finally gotten their first hints about the Milford estate. They had come to Roglif under orders of a General Stoneway to pick up a bit of information from some spies he had within the city, and to quickly return with him with the report. In exchange, he was going to be providing them with the location of a man they had been hunting for some time now. However, when they spoke to the spy, they learned that something interesting had been happening in Roglif. We should name him Halfrost because he sips a lot for Eric and Judy both. We might have to name the cat Halfrost. Or at least Frosty. Something a bit cattish, you know? When they had spoken to the spy, they learned that, due to the banditry in the region, due to the army set along either side of the river, Roglip has been unable to distribute the taxes as they had expected, and instead been having to hold on to month by month by month of taxes for the past 6 months. And based on most guesswork, they likely at this point have over 60,000 gold pieces hidden somewhere within the estate. The party has shown great interest in this, and might even decide to begin their heist before they have even tried to return the information to the general, who might have been able to provide them with more context. But either way, we're creeping ever closer to the heist day. So, with my next session happening tomorrow, we must hurry and finish the design of the Milford estate. Excuse me, Frosty, or Perfecto Frosty. We're having to take a look. Here you could see the first floor of the Milford estate. The grand entryway, now changed into a mail receiving and sending point. An area where all information from the army is brought in and sent out. Letters, reports, new information, and great deal of decision-making is done here. Let's see. There we go. That's perfect. They had done quite a bit of renovating in the main entry hall, removing statues, artwork, bringing in tables, and everything they need to house and easily access the records they have to use, though some features aren't so easily removed. The fountain remains, and so do the grand stairs. Immediately behind the great entryway on the first floor is the main hallway, an area meant more as a showing spot, somewhere to cross from the entry hall into the inner parts of the building. What was once a decorative, fanciful, and show-offy stretch of hall has become almost a secondary storage room. Low security goods, what few statues couldn't be moved around easily, and things that need to be stored temporarily before being moved on to a more proper holding spot have been dumped, gathered, and piled up here, causing the hall to feel far more cramped and far less illustrious. After the main hall, we head into the manor's showroom, the area that the Milfords use to show off their grandest artworks, operated as a bit of a drinking room and go-between betwixt their main food dining hall and their temporary ballroom / drinking room. It at one point housed great works of art, fanciful furniture, and a lavish amount of booze to be provided to those here. It has, however, been turned into more of a buffer zone. Security checkpoints set up, separating the now officers' dining hall from the basic soldiers' mess. Ultimately, this area works to buffer out anyone who shouldn't be in here and help separate the officers from the rank and file. As you could see, the old smoking room, ballroom combination has been turned into more of an office / mess hall, meant entirely for the officers' comfort and use. The main dining hall has been turned into a well-populated mess, many new tables brought in and every inch of space filled. No longer are there the grand tables and fanciful areas open for people to chat. Simply tables set in lines and rows. Finally, we see the kitchen and storeroom, accompanied by the servants' hallway, all of which operates as the main connection between several of the areas. These spots all operate to serve the services. Here, many servants come and go through the servants' entrance and into the hallways, providing whatever they need to the kitchens and other areas of the first floor. Though hidden somewhere here is a very important feature, the dumbwaiter, that allows these back rooms and hallways to access the other floors. Now that we have seen the first floor, I believe all of this is the same as the last stream I had. No real changes have been made here, but during our last Dungeons & Dragons stream, we had finished the design work on the second floor, and I have been very busy to fully populate it to your requests. And I believe we have done a terrific job. Here we have the prison rooms. The second floor, as occupied by the Kuntabat Guard, now operates as a bunk space for many of their sergeants and privates. It also operates as a holding cell for high security or common prisoners that are in need of questions, whether due to magical or traitorous connections. In the center, you can see we have built ourselves a bit of a interrogation room, separated by some stained glass operating as a one-way mirror. People are able to sit up here, bringing in those that need to be questioned, to be faced and asked whatever need be. They can also be observed from the accompanying room, where many records of the current prisoner are kept for easy access. Here at the front, we have the lieutenant. We have the first and second lieutenant's bedrooms. They are some of the highest quality here, being provided with personal storage, a double bed, and their own table to use as either a desk or dining space, should they need to remain on the second floor for extended periods of time. In the back corners, we can see the private's bunk, filled with cramped storage spaces, some level of security, and double-stacked bunks. The area cannot house the entirety of the group deployed here, but is mostly used for those who are on duty within the Milford estates, either guarding, performing security duties, or whatever else the building might need. On the left side, we see the sergeant's bunks. Those here for a similar reason, though, given a smaller degree of comfort. They are allowed single beds, no longer having to bunk, but still the space is shared amongst them. Along the back wall, we have our low security prison rooms, equipped with a table to eat at, a bed, and a place to take care of business when one is not allowed to leave easily. And below that, we have the rows of maximum security prisons. No beds are provided, simply bedrolls on the ground to be used. Additionally, there are no dining spaces, but old rugs or carpets spread out to provide a comfortable spot. They too have areas to relieve themselves and are checked on frequently to ensure nothing has gone awry. Finally, we have the records keeping room, the contraband room, and of course the room where much of the Milford family's old finery and decorations are kept when no good spot was found to store them. Crates of old paintings that seem to have a life of their own. Carpets, old statues, whatever else needs to be put out of the way and stored near indefinitely. And with that, we move on to the final floor of the Milford estate, and the focus of today's stream. We have a lot of work to do. I have worked to create a bit of a layout for us, but honestly, I didn't have in mind what I wanted any of these rooms to operate of, except for one. I wanted to create a layout that felt a little unique, something we're able to use easily and that allows for a lot of movement and a small amount of asymmetry. But as I've said, we have a collection of rooms here, none of which has been given a full purpose yet. So, we will have ourselves a great deal of control and time here to figure out how best to fill up and shape the third floor of the Milford estate. Now then, the final piece must fall into place. What has the third floor been being used as? The final floor of the Milford estate operates under one key feature, though it might fulfill several purposes at once. Its main, solitary, ultimate goal is the storage, recording, and distribution of all of the taxes within the Athrone territories in the Meadows. The third floor operates as bank, record-keeping, tax-collecting office, and pay office. There are many here with high security clearance, a great skill with numbers and the like. Some of these rooms must be kept for record-keeping. Some of them must be used for the solving of mathematical issues. How much coin is required where, how best to send it, how much is in storage, and what areas have not been distributing the amount of coin that was expected, what villages have skimped, and every small detail that could possibly be needed to resolve any issues with the taxes. But most importantly, one room on this floor will operate as the vault room, the room in which all of the tax money is collected and stored. A room which at this time must house 60,000 gold pieces, waiting for their chance to be sent off to Athrone and to the front lines to pay for soldiers, to resolve tax grievances, or, should things go awry, to line the pockets of some very skilled thieves. With that, we must finally discuss what the Milfords had envisioned for the third floor. This space was made almost entirely for the family. While certain other choices were made with some of the spare space, there should be a pair of main bedrooms on this floor for the masters of the house, most honored of guests, or simply for visiting family. As such, these bedrooms will be rather luxurious. Additionally, I believe there's likely to be some sort of private office space, private library perhaps, or simply a private drinking room with the finest of finery, the most expensive or secreted books, and perhaps some dark secrets of the Milford family are kept as out of view as possible. Finally, the one piece I did have envisioned, but I hope we can maintain, at least before the military gets their hands on it and changes the room into something else, is what I call the Milford's sun room. This room is very large. I believe 145 feet by 70 feet. I imagine this room is being equipped with vast windows that let in a large amount of light, creating an area well suited for relaxing during the day. The room might operate as a bit of a large shared reading space, doubling as almost a private ballroom. This space is meant to be luxurious, but for the family. This is where the Milford family would spend their time luxuriating. Not where they would be having large parties. Maybe honored guests or close friends might be welcome into the space. But this is their private sunroom, their secondary ballroom, their space of great interest. Let's hear. The block of 4 rooms can... Okay, let's hear. Let's start. Not terribly relevant, but if you were to walk into a marketplace with like 5 gold, how much could you buy? I just want to get an idea of how much a gold piece is actually worth. The block of 4 rooms connected to the bottom would be the master. Connected 4 rooms. Okay. I think I would be interested in that. We could definitely situate these 2, or maybe all 3 of these, as being kind of designed as some sort of set of master bedrooms. But definitely this space, I think, given its size and position, I want it to operate as more of a common space for the family, a sunroom, a reading room, something along those lines. But these 2 we can definitely consider being part of master bedrooms of some kind. There we go. Up to the DM, the rulebook has common items priced out, but it's appropriate to modify the costs, settings, negotiation, world lore, and the like. Exactly. Oh, Gingeronimo, I'm glad to see you're here. Anything you wanted? Well, sour cake, I guess if you want a pretty good idea. One sec. D&D prices. I suppose the best way to think about certain... No, 5 gold is not $1 million and you know it. Let's see here. 5 gold. What would be a better idea? I suppose a night at an inn. An average inn, not something overly fancy, but something that will fulfill all your comfort needs. A night which would include a meal and a breakfast, full availability of rooms, and if they have any common luxuries such as a bathing spot or the like, you could probably get away with 1 gold piece. So if you're spending very carefully, 5 gold at a either lower or with a bit of cleverness or negotiation could probably buy you an entire week's stay at an inn with a comfortable bed, a bathing space, and both breakfast and dinner for all 5 days. It is an amount not many lower peasants or the like are common to have on themselves at all times. Not an impossible amount for them to accrue, but I'd say a hefty amount of coin. Another way to think of it is a brand new longsword, I believe. The greatest tool in any adventurer's kit. I believe costs somewhere around 3 gold pieces. Damn, it's been a while. What's the AM? What's the AM? Oh no, are these drawn terribly? Yeah, they are. Honestly, one sec. We'll start over a bit here. What? Oh, what these are master bedrooms. I know there's technically only 1 master bedroom, but more so to decide like what sort of feel we want these rooms to have. I think I'm going to list these 2 as the master bedrooms. Here we have the sunroom slash private ballroom, reading room, basically the luxuriating space. At least that's what their initial purposes will be, and I'm free to go through this first, deciding what all these spaces used to be. But another thing to keep in mind is What has the military turned it into? So, we will continue, though, along this train of thought first. A pair of master bedrooms, the sunning and ballroom located here. What, then, would be this corner space? Easy access both to the sunroom, into the main entrance, where the only staircase is. Was it just me willfully butchering the English language? Had to ask what's up. No problem, Viventium. I am not the cleanest of writers when I'm making use of the, when I'm using a mouse to try to write out letters. The Milfords were so rich they had a whole separate room for the sun. Of course, the Milfords own the sun in this city. No other people are allowed to enjoy it. So let's see. I believe this space right now, and I'm free to change this, but initially I believe this space feels like it would most obviously fill the idea of the private library. Easy access to a room with a lot of sunlight, easily connected to the main bedrooms, and somewhere that can be gotten to from downstairs quite easily. This, I believe, will operate as a nice location for a private library. It has a pair of doors into it, leading both into the sunroom and out in kind of the main entrance hall for this floor. Let's see. Now then, we have a very interesting pair of rooms immediately across from, I suppose, the master bedrooms. A bit isolated from much of the building. Decently sized, of course. These could be children's bedrooms of some kind, would be a possibility. Though perhaps children would instead be housed down on the second floor where the larger number of rooms are. What is everyone else thinking? We have several rooms up here to fill. Though if we'd rather think about it from what the military would be using the space for, we can transition our thought patterns. But for now, I think I enjoy building the Milford's home first, and then changing it. The Scrooge McDuck style room filled with the coins for the goofy setting. Well, funnily enough, Flinty Boy, I doubt they would have had a treasury room themselves. Though, I do believe one of these rooms might end up being used as the military's vault. Meaning one of these rooms might just be filled with quite a bit of coin. Alright, so servants' rooms. Interesting idea. Kind of centrally located, of course. The stamp room. I think it would be more likely to put the servants' quarters a bit out of the way, if possible. In fact, I know that the dumbwaiter would connect here from the bottom floors. So I believe this could operate very well right here as servants' bedrooms. We could fill it with several different beds. They would be able to be here on the third floor, and they could use the dumbwaiter whenever needed, either to receive or, for some smaller servants, make use of it to transition themselves from one floor to another. Additionally, they would be able to very quickly get to the stairs and not have to have themselves out and about. Great. I think servants' bedrooms here works very well. Wouldn't put a servant's room on this floor, but more of a servant's requirements room. What would be a requirements room? I'm afraid I'm not as versed in servential use as probably I should be in this case. Though I'm curious what you think, Vulcan. Like I said, this would be the room that the dumbwaiter has access to. So no matter what, I think servants make use of this room. Perhaps it's the requirements room, though I'm not overly familiar with what that is. So for now, I'll add a little R here. Either more room that has the items and tools servants need to fulfill their duties. All right, so maybe more of a connective room. This place is simply supposed to operate as a connection between the first floor kitchens and the third floor. Yeah, kind of like a storage room, agreed. Janitorial type space. There might be a bed in here, but that would likely be something the servants themselves had more interest in creating than was necessarily directly provided to them. As such, the servants have easy access then from this room either out into the hall. We could create a connection here, though I'm not sure if it's something that we needed. Wow, that was a brain dump. That should be fine. Fine indeed. Now then. I think for now, two spaces that I believe should have fairly obvious uses. These would be more common bedrooms. So I think to kind of create a centralized location, I'm going to go ahead and mark up this 6-room space as being the pair of, I suppose, master bedrooms, and then their subsequent lower bedroom halves, essentially. These spaces might be held more so for children or something of that like, but we'll still simply mark this up as the Milford's bedroom space up on the 3rd floor. That helps us mark out a great deal. Next, then, we have these 2 corner spaces. The last 2 of the largest rooms available. Eric gave us too much freedom. Brain go brr. I'm sorry. We could work a bit more than on narrowing things down. I might just try to finish up then some of the Milford design on my own, and more so ask you guys what you think should be done by the military to turn this floor into a tax collecting office. So let us see here. Now this, I already know what this is going to be. This, oh, that's not right. Let's get something a bit more blue. There we go. This will be the room that has the secret connection to their underground bathhouse. I believe a magic circle connection might be something very fanciful that they might have on this floor. Perhaps I now need to figure out a location of another one where they might have guests come through, or perhaps their bathhouse is something more of a private endeavor. But I think I like making use of this space here for such a purpose. I realized after last brewing of the 2nd floor and equipment of the guards, those guys would hate a sorcerer with a subtle spell meta magic. Sorry, random. No problem, Zinaku. Yo, magic sauna? Well, the sauna itself is not actually predominantly magically used. It is simply an underground bathhouse that might make some use of magic to maintain hot water and the like. But think of it like a Roman public bath. A large open space somewhere between a bath and a tub. Or a bathtub and a swimming pool. That the Milfords made great costs and spent much time creating. Now we are cooking. Of course, unfortunately, that is not so much the focus of today, though we might spend some time discussing other features we'd like the bathhouse to have. Now then, let us leave this room. The Milfords are fanciful. Straight across from the sunroom, we might want something else. So this, you would walk past the baths to get to either this, or it'd be after coming out of the sunroom. What to do? What to do? It's a bit out of the way. To be something where a lot of people would go. So this, I believe, will operate as the Milford's old office. Essentially, perhaps a place where they kept personal records, a place where some of them might have housed themselves to count and keep records of their finances, costs, and the like, or where the head of the family more so made up their space, an in-home place to operate out of. After all, we all need somewhere in our homes nowadays to maintain a bit of business. That then leaves us with 3 more rooms. We could, of course, simply turn these 2 into more bedrooms, though thinking of something more interesting could be desirable. I think I have an idea, and I'm going to need you all to help me decide where to put this. What? Chat designs an encounter, chat designs a heist, chat designs a tasteful bathhouse scene. A natural progression. Agreed. That is very much how I'd imagine chat deciding to go on any sort of design or building session. So now the Milfords, I believe, to have the most luxurious thing, something that allows them to both show off and needlessly spend cash, need, of course, their own private, what would it be? Art studio, I suppose? Tasteful. Doubt. Agreed, Ginger. Agreed. So, I believe one of these 3 rooms should be used as the Milford's private studio, where they dabble in painting, sculpting, the creation of their own family's artistry to advance their name, to show off to a degree. Which of these rooms shall operate as the family's private studio? We have 1 more side room here, and 2 corner rooms. The corner rooms obviously offer a greater deal of space to work with. Though whether you want the studio to take up a vast amount of space or to be a more reasonably sized room, I think is up for debate. So let us do it this way. It's been so long in, and we haven't even begun our very first poll, so I think that is what we're going to do. Probably top right. Keep it near the dumbwaiter? Perhaps so. Where is the art room? 1, 2, or 3? Alright, we have a poll up and running for you all. Get a chance to get your thoughts in, and we shall all decide where their private art studio should go, in rooms 1, 2, or 3. They seem like they would have a studio personal collection room. Exactly. Though most of the place they show off their artwork is down on the first floor, where they are likely to have guests. This is more of a creation room, a design room, a room just for the family itself, essentially. And it seems we might be coming to a decision very soon here. A few seconds left, everybody, and then we shall be moving on. Is the left side a screen west? And the art piece would look great in the afternoon sun. I hadn't really decided a north, south, east, west, though that does make a degree of sense. Though if they have a sunroom here, I might imagine this to be something that would get as much sun during the day as possible. Well then, we have the art studio decided up here. So that just leaves us with 2 more rooms. What else might the Milfords possess upon their first floor? They have an art studio, a private library, a sunroom, an office space, a secret connection to their underground bathhouse, a connection down to the storage spaces. What else might a family desire for their own uses that wouldn't be down on the first or second floor? Let us think. A luxury, a private luxury. Not something they're wanting to show off necessarily, at least not here. Something more meant for them, private guests. I believe I now know what this room shall be. This is what I would call a training room for the boys of the house. Perhaps, though I might imagine that would be more of a thing they did on their estate grounds. Something more so outside on one of the few acres that they owned. I believe inside, what I'll put here would be essentially, lords, the tea room, a private dining space. Though, of course, no, I believe the sunroom might be used for that. Never mind. No. This space operates with so much impunity. Perhaps I would make a training room then. Though putting that on the third floor sounds like begging for a great deal of noise and stomping to echo throughout the house. No. You know what I believe? And this will obviously have been repurposed. But for its initial use, I believe this room... Now, perhaps it has been turned into an armory. But for now, for the Milford family, this was another bedroom. Though this was the bedroom for their privately hired mage. Their bedroom mage. I believe any truly noble family should have a magic wielder on the payroll at all times. It allows them to fulfill many purposes and duties. So, of course, they would be welcome up on the main family floor, though stuck over on the side that the servants' rooms are. Both a slight, but a great deal of respect to be brought up to the third floor. Exactly. I think using this as originally, and of course we'll be free to change it quite a bit, as their private mage's room works quite well on this floor. So, that just leaves us with one final room that the Milfords had here. A smaller room in some degrees, placed off to the side. This room is placed beneath, but in between their personal art studio and the connective room to their private bathhouse. Oh, what to do? What to do here? Between your art studio and there. An option I might throw out would be perhaps the laboratory of some kind, but I believe if they had a privately hired mage who had a large space for themselves, initially they probably would have used their own bedroom as a bit of their own lab. Plus, it is located quite a walk both from the mage's bedroom and their library, making this space, I think, a bit awkward to operate as a lab space or experimental room. What else? What else could it be? Oh, darn. I am perhaps at a loss for use of this room. I'm very open if anybody has any suggestions, something they could imagine a luxurious family to keep. But I think I'm out of ideas for what the Milfords originally used this space for. I'm so highly tempted just to mark it as another small bedroom, but I feel like I'm missing something more interesting that can be done, something with a bit of intrigue to it. Oh, a closet for spare paintings. Hmm, a religious room. A room of worship. A room to house the bug collection. Now, maybe approach it differently. What are we looking for? Practical use or just rich person show off style room? Well, on this third floor, all of these features are less so for showing off and more so for their practical use. Is there a wine storage room? I suppose I haven't already given them an in-house wine space, but I would imagine, as usual, that would not be kept up on the top floor. No. I kind of want to combine a few of your ideas, though. A space for spare paintings. Though remember, the Milford's paintings, the one they kept in their house, doubled as two purposes. They were made of old family members, but also as a guardians in a way. So perhaps a space where some of the more connective or information sharing paintings are kept. So somewhere where the paintings could report to a family member. Not only that, though, with so many paintings of major members of the family, especially from the past, this would operate as a little bit of a remembrance room. A room to look back on the family, what has been accomplished, and to learn the history. Which allows this place to also operate in a bit of a ceremonial or religious sense. So I quite like this being a sort of worship room. This is the place where they worship their family and might find private time to worship whatever gods a particular family member has seen so fit to look into. There are several paintings that were initially set up here that would report of the goings on throughout the house to whatever family member was here and needed to have information. It also operated as a way to learn a bit about the family's history by speaking with the clever guardians of the house and asking them about the person that they represent or other family members not yet represented as the painting. Additionally, with a portion of this room being dedicated to just general relaxation, it would have a space where those people could display symbols or pieces of their gods. I like it. A bit of a general worship room, I think, works very well for a luxurious family looking for some more practical uses of a good room. And with that, we have the initial design laid out. This is how the Milfords built this building to work. This is what all of these rooms have been designed and were initially renovated to do. However, that is no longer their purpose here, you see. Because as the military has stepped in, they have done a great deal of renovation to each of these rooms to help it serve the singular purpose of tax management, both its storage and recording. This is the floor where all of the taxes of the entire region are brought to, recorded, stored, determined their exact amounts and where they need to go, where they are repackaged and sent out for distribution. This floor has been repurposed into a tax office. As such, a large room, great windows, decent access to constant lighting. The sunroom has been entirely renovated into an accountant's room. Many desks, tables, and the like are set up here with easy access to the windows' lights. Here is where records are made, edited, letters are written, and where all the information is done and stored. None of the actual coin is necessarily brought here, though it might be brought through here quickly for counting. This is not either where it is stored or where it is prepped to be sent out. This is simply where most of the accounting of the coin is done, both for the record keeping and for its management. As such, the room that connects to it and has easy access to the stairs, this would be the... Oh, what would be the name? What's the room that things come into? It's like an... I know it's not invoice. I know an invoice is something differently, but invoice is the word that's coming to mind. Influx room, God, when mail goes into a building, as the coin is coming in, this is the room it's brought to and counted, where basically the coin is initially brought in with what records were brought with it, where it is accounted for before those files are sent out to go through the more broad math of figuring everything. The intake room, thank you. Perfect. Thank you, Geronimo. That is exactly what I was looking for. So, the coin is brought upstairs, it heads here, and it goes into the intake room, where all information that came with it is brought, and where each coin is brought out and counted one at a time. Those records are then sent into the accountant room to be more properly used with the broader pieces of information to figure out whether the location that sent in the coin actually sent in the correct amount, how certain regions are doing, and where it all needs to be split off and sent to. I believe then that allows this room, for the easy access it is, and already being designed as an office space, to work as a good records keeping room, where many of the documents go to eventually die, in a sense, unless they are needed at some later date. So then, once that is done, the coin itself needs to be brought out and then stored. We must then next figure out where is the vault. There are a few things to consider. The vault is meant as a storage space. The coin is not meant to be kept here indefinitely, but to be stored here until such time as it needs to be sent off to the capital to pay off the taxes of the region, or to the front lines to pay off the soldiers. As such, having a more direct route to the entrance and exit makes a bit of sense, though it is still a large amount of coin that is oftentimes stored for at least a month. So security is certainly on the top of the list. As such, I think we have to cross off these two rooms and these two rooms for being used as the location of the vault. While they have easy access for coin to be brought into or taken out of, I believe they provide the absolute lowest level of security. I think then for creating an easy route with low traffic and still have a higher level of security, the two rooms I like for use as the vault room would be these two. That would allow them to immediately turn here and allow the coin to basically operate within a single loop of this floor, never having to go off into different directions. Sorry, I'm late. I was on a walk for the last 4 hours. No problem, Crazy Seth. We are just working on designing the third floor of the Milford estate. This is the floor where all the coin and tax income for the entire region is intaked, accounted for, and stored. But goddamn, yeah, no, walking for 4 hours, crazy, hell yeah. I need to find a place nearby where I can get myself into a good walk, personally. But for now, I'm so tired. I'm sorry, crazy. So, what do you all think? Between these two rooms, there's some obvious pros and cons. This room is very large, making it, I think, a bit of an awkward vault room in some ways, but also has a greater feeling of security and placement. One of these central rooms kind of has just to it a bit of a looser feel, but also space-wise and location-wise, I think would operate well as a vault room. I'm a bit torn on how I want to make use of these. What do you all think? The top room or the bottom room? Or perhaps you're seeing something here that I'm missing, of a space that would make an even better vault room. The top room only has one adjacent room. Could be harder to get into. Eric, you're really nailing that 7-year-old me in MS Paint vibes. You're welcome, Blindy boy. I'm glad I could appease your desire for a 7-year-old in MS Paint. Top room has only one adjacent room. Could make it a lot harder to get into. Agreed, agreed. Though it does entirely surrounded by hallways on all other sides, making it bit of a question. Do they have one or two doors into them, I suppose? Turning my inner spy boy on. Hell yeah. So what floor does this represent? This is the third floor of the Milford Estates. This is the floor that was initially used as more of their private lodgings, but has now been repurposed by the military as the tax accounting area. Perhaps we should start with one other question then. And that would be, which of these two rooms would best operate as the outtake room? After the money is accounted and stored, it would eventually need to be divided up and then prepared for being sent off, either to pay off soldiers, to pay off taxes, to be sent to different works that need to be done in the city or surrounding region. So once the money is intaked, accounted for, the records are split off, the money is brought here and stored in either the top or the bottom room. Then, once it is ready to be taken out, it is then moved into... Both of these might operate as outtake rooms, depending, but I think we only need one. Yes. I think to keep everything a tight loop, I'm personally leaning on these two rooms operating as the vault and outtake room. I have to agree with Ginger that this room being adjacent to two other rooms makes it maybe more or less secure than this other room, but allowing everything kind of inside this circuit to be focused on money or on the coin itself gives us a very tight loop of focused purpose and use. So the money is brought in, stored in the vault, it is taken from the vault into the outtake room, and from there it is sent back out. This, I think, is a very tight loop that I enjoy. Very sensible for how the coin is used, or at least how it is meant to be used. So, one thing I do want to point out is very simple. I don't think the military can actually make much use of the private bath connection. Within this room, what I was imagining the main feature to be was a magic circle on the ground, which connects to an underground bathhouse. And while maybe some officers or soldiers might make use of the bathhouse itself, it does make the room a hard place for them to use directly, I think, for anything. Maybe as a storage space or something of the like, but the simple fact that there is a magical tunnel, essentially, in this room to another room that they do not have fully secured, well, they likely have the bathhouse to a degree secured, but simply operates as another entrance, makes this space, I think, hard for the military to use. I don't know. Imagine you are a major military officer. You're renovating a building that has been offered to the military's purposes. On the accounting and tax collecting floor, you find out there's a room that basically its only purpose is being a secret entrance to an underground bathhouse. There are only a few connections to the bathhouse, so it can be secured. Seems like a flawed design to them, by them to me. By whom? Because I at least think on the Milford side of things, the family makes a lot of sense for them on their private floor to have a connection to their private bathhouse. But I do agree, for the military, this seems like a very useless room, or a very hard room to renovate into an actual purpose. Perhaps we should leave it off for later and try to think of something else, but I think so. Seal it off. Perhaps to a degree sealing it off. I think there would be a temptation, particularly by officers or the like, to try and occasionally make use of it themselves as a very fancy bath space, but to a degree, yeah, I think sealing it off makes a bit of sense. Yes. I think the military would see it as a flaw, or if the officer in charge could just use it and keep it secret. Hey, yo, what you doing? Hi there, Dr. Lavalov. We are designing the third floor of a structure called the Milford Estates, which my Dungeons and Dragons party is planning on heisting on in an upcoming session. On the Milford, it would be good. However, for the military, they probably would have sealed it off or even tried to remove it, would be their go-to. Yes, I think I like that. What we're going to do is have the room generally boarded up to a degree. I don't think they would go through the effort to brick it, especially on request from the Milford family, stating that the magic circle is very expensive for them to install, very hard to get everything up and running as it was. They understand needing to seal the room temporarily, but would request that it simply be boarded or locked in a way. As such, I think what I would also do is have a set of the animated armors in here. Their purpose is basically to watch for anybody who enters. And they also double as maybe a bit of an exploitable purpose for some high-ranking officers or some nobles allowed on this floor. Basically, responsive automatons that are able to check a character's rank, and if someone is of a high enough rank, will not operate in such a way as to be a threat. Though for thinking some people privately make use of this, instead of a board, I'm imagining simply some sort of magical or highly detailed lock mechanism on this room. This room is displayed to the accountants, to rank and file, to as many people as possible, as being sealed and not in use. But I really like the idea of there being perhaps some corrupt officials or more indulgent officers that occasionally make private use of it. Now, would they know the faces to know the rank, or check what they are wearing? That is a good question. I think the automatons, to operate best, would know face and rank. I guess they wouldn't necessarily be able to know all officers within the entire military, so it would likely have to be based off of insignia, or they know particular officers to operate as check-ins, essentially. When in doubt, if this person says it's okay, it's okay. So I think these automatons would essentially have a collection of, at most, 6 or so people that they wouldn't immediately attempt to seize upon being spotted in this room. But the automatons also offer an interesting option for the party, because I'll make sure they are themselves non-auditory. The automatons don't speak, but will immediately move to intercept anyone not of official rank within this room, which offers the ability for a silent conflict if a clever use of spells or magic items are made use of here. So here we have it, the locked room for corrupt officials and luxurious officers. Now then. That leaves us with a collection of rooms. I believe, honestly, this room here, the servant's requirements room, would likely be left as basically what it was, with its dumbbell connection to the lower kitchen space, and the fact that there would be a lot of people working within the records and accounting sections. This might be a space that simply has a handful of servants who are working here to bring food when needed. No. These people would be expected to go down to the first floor, I think. So let's see here. We have a records office. So that's simply for the coin. We have a vault, the outtake, the intake room. What other major things would be needed for this floor? I know exactly what this room would be used for, actually. Let's see here. This is what I'm going to broadly call the map room. With so much coin coming in and with a lot of records being kept here, there needs to be a room where things can be broken down into a more visual fashion. This room is going to basically house a massive map of all the major counties within the A-Throne claim here, and allow for easy visualization of where taxes are coming in, where they're supposed to be going out to. This place operates not so much as record keeping, but as a space for officers to communicate with the accountants. Actually, no, that wouldn't be here, would it? Damn it. The place that would make the most sense would be, well, let's see. So here we have the records, which could be easily brought back to the map room to help bring up all the information that those needing it would go to. But this room operates as the easiest connection for people coming in to learn that information. Now, would they know the faces to know the... Okay. So, what do you think? The visualization room, the map room, the room where all of the information is boiled down and where basically discussions can be had, where essentially they can bring in their financial counsel to discuss what needs to be happened, what needs to be changed, and what funds are fully available to them. Would that be the room with easiest access to the entrance, or the room with easiest access to the records? Or perhaps one of the other rooms. I think it's time for another poll, because I'm a bit lost again here. So where is the records room? Or not the records room, the, I suppose the map room. Is it the left corner, right corner, or somewhere entirely different? It's curious. I'm feeling more and more like it would be in the right corner. Lower traffic, at least for the officers coming in and out. Though that puts all of the difficulty on those bringing up the records, and if any new records are needed to be brought forward to change, there's so much traffic to move from the records room to the map room. Oh, I'm a bit lost here. And it seems like we are all a bit lost from the looks of the poll. Oh, God. Damn it. Alright. Alright, I think we'll have to come back to that. God, it was so easy. It was so... Well, the poll wasn't helpful. Wasn't helpful at all. No, I agree, Crazy Seth. Well, it was going so well. We got all of this figured out so quickly. We do, apparently. Exactly. All right. Well, I think one I do finally have an answer for. Is I believe this room is going to be used as a general storage room. With so many records being kept, there needs to be a room that is practically filled with paper, ink, quills, additional chairs, storage of certain other odds and ends that the accounting office is going to need. So I believe using this space as a storage room makes a lot of sense and require the least changing from its initial servants requirements room into more of a office supply storage. So that leaves us with the 4 bedrooms and the worship room entirely up in the air. However, I would imagine that much like the bathhouse room, the family's ancestor god worship room would be the one they would most request no changes to be made to. They would be least likely to be okay with any renovations made that would require removal or the possible destruction of anything within this room. So it is possible this became another sealed off space, or perhaps operates a bit as a private room for maybe some of the highest ranking officers within the city who are allowed to make use of some of these bed spaces. I think I now know what I want to use these 4 bedrooms for. I believe these will now operate as the officer bedrooms. It allows us to very quickly make use of here and is a bit easily explained. high-ranking officers, those in charge of figuring out funding, creating overarching plans within the city of Rogluf, those who are going to be managing major works or anything that needs immediate checking in with all of their local records. Plus, these 4 rooms are going to maintain a bit of their luxurious bedroom status and hold the highest ranking officers that need to be constantly connected to the flow of information. As such, I think this place might be used a bit as a quiet room. Maintain a bit of its worship, a bit of its quiet feel, though with some of the family portraits taken out and moved, of course, to the second floor portrait and artwork storing room that we have right here. This room might maintain some of its religious prominence and look, but would be shifted to essentially just a quiet place for the officers to go and relax in their off time. Though then again, they could of course go down to the officers' mess for that. Perhaps I created too many rooms on this floor. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by some of this, honestly. Even with these being turned into officer bedrooms, there's so much here. Ah. Well, perhaps it is a time to take just a momentary recess and check in on how all of you are doing. We've been at it for quite a while, and I think taking a moment for everyone to simply breathe and stretch a bit might be very helpful. How is everybody's weekends doing? How are you all enjoying the final steps in designing the Milford estate? What? I got my second vaccine shot today, so I blame my brain farts on that. Ah, no, that's fair. I've heard the second one really knocks you out. How you feeling, Blinty? Is it hitting you pretty hard? I still need to find out if there's anywhere within walking distance of me that's doing that. I started to do research one day, but it seemed like most of the places actually within a reasonable distance of me don't have pharmacies. And it's starting to rub me the wrong way, trying to figure out how best to go about getting my own vaccine. Ah. It does, like a mild hangover. Okay, got you, Plenty. My weekend is going very nice. I'm glad to hear that, Crazy Seth. Yeah, you had a really nice walk, and you're coming back to join me for a bit of discussing Dungeons and Dragons. How have you been, Eric? I've been pretty good. I'm enjoying my first weekend back from house sitting. Having kind of the space that I'm used to has been very helpful. Honestly, though, I did something a little unique this week, and I went out to a restaurant, which I hadn't done in a while. And it was this weird steakhouse that I'd never gone to before. When I sat down, I very quickly learned that they didn't operate like a normal restaurant because they never brought out an actual menu for me to look at. They just told me when I was interested in getting some meat to flip over a little button thing I had from a red side to a green side. And you see, in the restaurant, there was always like 3 or 4 servers walking around with a skewer with a bunch of different meat on it. And then they would go up to every table that had set themselves to green, and they would offer you a cut of the skewered meat. And basically, that was just the whole experience. Was just when you were hungry, you'd flip the thing over. They would come over and you'd get a slice of meat and you'd try it and eat it. And then another person would come up and you would just kind of be sitting there waiting for servers to come around and taking a guess on whether you would like a cut of what they were offering or not. And while I'm certain that sounds like pretty exciting and unique for some people, I'd kind of headed out hoping to have a pretty normal restaurant experience. And when that's kind of a bunch of different cuts of meat are coming around, and one of them you really liked, but a bunch of the other ones you weren't too keen on, trying to wait for the guy with that cut you really wanted to walk around again to kind of flip the thing over to try to be like, hey, I want actual order of that. It became a little frustrating. I found myself just kind of giving up at a certain point and eventually kind of heading out after having just a few cuts of a couple of different types of steak, I suppose. Like I said, I imagine a lot of people have more fun with that sort of experience. But it was weird. It was weird for me. Damn, America is something else. Again, I think that was because it was trying to be a more. It was like a Brazilian steakhouse. I think it was trying to do kind of a more like of that style thing because I've never been to a place like that before. So I don't know if that's an America thing, a Brazilian thing, or just a that place thing. Hmm. Yeah, it is definitely different. Sour cake, I agree. All right. I think I've made the decision. All right. Yes. This, I believe, will be the map room. It has easy access for all of the officers. It has no overlap with any of the records keeping money routes, except for from the records room itself, but it provides the most direct route there. If most of the major officers are here, then a majority of people have easy access, and any additionals they bring up are able to take a route that keeps them out of the way of everything. And while they have to go a little around, I think it's fine to do that here. As such, I think the final room I really want to think about, I really want to get your guys' opinions on, is what to do with this room here. It sees a small amount of traffic, certainly an amount both with officers leaving or with people coming in to go to the map room. That'd be the majority of it. It's near the storage room, it's near the officers' bedrooms, and it's near the exit. It has easy flow in a sense to sort of the people parts of this floor. Hmm. I think most simply, I'm going to make this a waiting room. With all the major officers up here and with them having sort of their own essentially meeting room that they're able to make use of and bring people into, I would imagine whenever a messenger or people are brought to this floor, but not everyone's available, or the messenger has something they need to deliver to all of the officers, instead of being brought in and made to wait in kind of the records room and the map room or anywhere like that, there's a comfortable space with no beds now placed into it, but is simply made for sitting, waiting, or where people can be kind of collected before an official meeting starts. It's not a great purpose for this room, I would say, but kind of makes a lot of sense with how traffic moves through here and the spaces it has easy access to. And I think with that, there's certainly parts of this that feel really strong. Honestly, everything on this portion of the mansion I love. I feel like all of this is perfect and clean. Would it be possible to have the Contact Guard a magical expert, the room would retain its original purpose? That is true. That would allow us to turn this into the waiting room and maintain this as sort of a particular expert's bedroom in a way, or more of a dissertation room. Yeah, I think. That's actually very interesting, Blinty. I don't know about an expert's bedroom, but perhaps a sort of a room used by high officers or the Contact Guard as sort of a reporting room. What would God damn. What is it called when I'm late with it? We have been working on designing the third floor of the Milford estate for an upcoming D&D heist I've been planning. But I'm trying to think, what's the name of the thing where debriefing room? Like a briefing or debriefing room is something I'm thinking of. With its easy access to the entrance and exit, it doesn't really cross paths with anyone else. Officers have easy access to it if they need to. The Contact Guard with control of the second floor can easily come up and make use of this. And this room was originally used as a wizard sort of lab space. I think this room could work very well as a sort of briefing, debriefing, and kind of a magical training room in a sense. Something only used by the Contact Guard or the official officers ranking above them. Honestly, making this the waiting room, making that have that purpose, I feel a lot better about this. Thank you, Blenty. That is starting to look a bit better in my mind. And would allow, I think, some interesting items to be stored in there. Yes, I think we're about done with the overall layout of the final floor of the Milford estate. So I just want to take a couple of minutes to ask you all, is there anything obvious I'm missing? Are there any bits or pieces you think that the building needs? Some purpose it hasn't fulfilled with any of its 3 floors? Hi, kitty. With its first floor focused on intake, mess rooms, and sort of a security buffering. The second floor operating as the Contabat's private prison, with a maximum and minimum security, interrogation, and contraband rooms. And with its third floor, now designed as a accounting office, officer's space, and debriefing and maps room. Is there anything I'm obviously missing at this point? Debriefing room is definitely a good choice. Thank you, thank you. What do you all think? Are you feeling kind of confident in our design? Does the space seem practical, lived in, like a mansion that has been renovated? Or is everything just a little unfocused or odd in a way that doesn't make sense to the context of what we've been trying to build? Or, most importantly, what have you guys thought of this whole process? I know a lot of you don't actually play Dungeons and Dragons, but I hope this whole build design has been at least a little fun for all of you. a little interesting and something you've been able to at least put on in the background and enjoy my smooth caress. What do you all think of how we've been going? Honestly, with those last few changes, it's certainly very colorful. Okay, sour cake. That's fair. I don't know. We're obviously looking at kind of the layout design portion of this, but I mean, it's eventually going to end up looking a lot more like one of the lower floors, you know? I'm not just going to leave it in its MS Paint version forever. Enjoying that fun helping come up with a lot of the ideas. Thank you, Crazy Seth. Basement dungeon, lol. Well, the original, I think, Lunday, the mansion does have a underground bathhouse with a few secret entrances to it. Though, again, this was a mansion, not originally designed for military purpose, so I doubt they had a well-designed dungeon on hand. But it's strange. Why did a child go around and draw on the floor? God damn it, Crazy! Your taunts will not drive me to anger. Resolution to make things beautiful once I've gone through all of this and finished up its final pass to make it look more understandable. Weren't we talking about chimneys in the first session? So basically all the bedrooms are likely to have well, not all, but a majority of the bedrooms are going to have access to a fireplace. The kitchens itself will have a couple of chimneys. Hi, honey. I can, unless. Oh, welcome to our Dungeons and Dragons stream. So there are going to be a lot of chimneys that eventually form into kind of this complex chimney system. However, it's not something we exactly need to have pre-mapped out, so much as something that's going to be a series of skill checks, and depending on how well things go, a random roll onto what room someone might end up in, depending on how well researched they went into it ahead of time. We could definitely consider coming back to this in the future, though. We're getting closer and closer to the party actually starting this, so I'm afraid there are other things we must focus on. In fact, I believe with that, we are done on the map design of the final floor. I believe the layout is now making a lot of sense to me. It's something I can do some work with. So instead, we must move on to the final topic of today's stream. An important one. A character the party has not met yet, but is one of the most important figures within the Milford estate and the city of Rogluf. The head of the Comtabat Guard placed within the city, one Capitan Baudon Telarus. A man meant to be a direct threat, possible antagonist, and intimidating authoritative figure within any attempt of crime within the city of Rogluf. What you all should know is Capitan Telarus is the head of the 6th Brigade. Well, I don't know if it's brigade. I have to look up sizes of everything. I believe it'd be the 6th cohort of the Comtabat Guard. He's in charge of all members of the Guard within the city, and has been placed with 2 major tasks. His first is that of any Comtabat Guard unit. Develop and proceed with any method they see fit to deal with possible enemy mages and casters. Their skills lie within the anti-magical, particularly on the battlefield, though here they're more of a defensive unit who has been charged with defending the city from any sudden magical encroachments by the enemies across the border. However, Capitan Delarus has taken a second job under his belt. using his guard to operate as an counter-spying cohort within the city, questioning dissonance, ensuring all visitors are what they claim to be, and going about discovering any spies against the Eithromi military within the city of Rogluth. As such, he has operated more and more in line. Capitaine. Yes, French pronunciation of captain is capitaine. Right? Capitaine? So you want more of a 10 sound, I imagine. Capitaine Telarus. I think I'm getting kind of the R sound on the Telarus. To really get that. I do my best at giving it a good French pronunciation, but yes, because it'd be Capitaine. I think ton would go, what would that? Would that be more Spanish in direction, or maybe that's just ridiculous sounding? So Capitaine Telarus. Capitaine. How does that sound canonless? Capitaine Telarus. God, it cannot be just me saying that over and over again. So, as you can imagine, Telarus is a very dangerous figure. Spot on. Hell yeah. He is powerful in his own right, but he is only a captain. He doesn't operate as capitaine. There we go. So, he is not the highest ranking person within the Contabat Guard. He is in charge of this particular cohort, but has people he answers to. Also, he must answer to any higher ranking officer within the city, though he's not expected to be constantly under their command. However, as the party has not met him yet, I would like your guys' help in designing the personality of Baudin Telarus. Is he a paranoid man, or is he self-assured? He's obviously highly inquisitive and intelligent, but does he come across as a threat when he questions people, or is honestly curious? Perhaps he's very charismatic, which has got him to this role, or perhaps he is extremely... Pawn is more Italian. Okay, got it. Is he very soldiery, very cut and dry with how he approaches things, or the charismatic, interesting person? What do you all think? Yeah, Telarus pronounces fuck, thank you, Kieran. I mean, he is French. That's like 70% of personality. True. But I believe we're going to have a lot of fun now, because I'm going to put up a few series of polls. Our very first poll is... what is this man's core? What is the core of his stance? Is he driven by basically this desire to rise up in the ranks? Yeah, is he very rank driven? Is he driven to rise up either because he believes he's owed it, because he started as a private and is just trying to push forward, or we can decide, of course, why he's driven, but is he very rank driven? Is he maybe just, I suppose, is he more show-offy? Is he a show-off in a sense? Is the reason he's gotten into this position more so based around his high intellect that he likes to show off with? The rank is incidental to him. He is mostly, though, focusing on trying to prove his abilities. He doesn't care if he's promoted for it. He just wants to make the name for himself. Is he... Oh yeah, is he name or pride driven? Well, pride more so falls into the rank. So, what would it be? Is he driven by fame, I suppose? Have a cozy office job, but keeps being put into roles that the brass believes best suits his talents. Normal, more combat and life threatening. Okay. I think the picture is a little representative of how I see him in my mind, but is not like a direct. Honestly, I think this is artwork from an Assassin's Creed game, so I think it does kind of lead people in a certain direction. I'd say for now, feel free to ignore it, but he is military. He is kind of, you know, he's an investigator in a way. And the final option I want to put up is he driven more so by a personal desire? Something not like rank, not like fame, but an actual dislike of spies, a dislike of magic, something along those lines. So rank, fame, a personal desire, or is he honor bound? A man from a military family or from a noble family that has entered into the military trying to prove himself, trying to prove his family's name, maintain their honor. He goes up in rank, of course, but the goal isn't rank. The goal is to maintain his family's name. He operates more so as an antagonist to the party, or is likely to. He's an authority figure in charge of the anti-magical cohort within the city. He's the chief guard of the Milford estates and operates as an anti-spying soldier, as well as being currently militarily on the side that the party is most antagonistic to. So right now he operates, I wouldn't say villain, but certainly a highly potential antagonist. And so the poll is up. Is this a man driven by rank, by a desire to move up and to be given more power, more control, more station? Is he driven by fame? He doesn't care what rank he reaches as long as everyone remembers Capitaine Teleros as the most intelligent man that has ever existed. Is there something more personal driving him? A hatred of magic, a dislike of spies, or a desire to see something specific occur through his actions? Or finally, is he simply an honor-bound man? From a military or noble family, he has entered into this profession to maintain his family's name. He joined the war when he heard Athrone was in trouble and is simply trying to maintain a station. Well, it looks like it is a personal desire that drives him. And I imagine I know where people are wanting to go a bit with this. So, what are some ideas for those desires that drive him? I'm seeing too many bad encounters with mages, so it sounds like an actual dislike of magic. Let us see. So, what is it he hates? Is it magic in general? Is it mages as people for some reason or another? Hey, Crown Jack, we're currently building an antagonist personality, so I'm excited to see people getting in. Of course, there's also a hatred of spies. There's another reason you could have got into this particular profession. Or finally, something unique, something outside of the mage or spies. I suppose personal reason. necromancy or devil worship cults. I don't know much of this world. That is fair, Original Lunday. And I'll go ahead and get into those questions as soon as I put up one more. Okay, a personal desire. What is it he hates? Magic, mages, spies, or well, I want one more option. Something that could drive a man to this position. Something that would drive him. Secretive person, large family issues with that being on the younger end of the family. Oh. Not having privacy. So he hates... I might have to... So instead of what is it he hates, what is he after? Magic. He's after magic. He's after mages. He's after spies. Or perhaps he's after his own title. He doesn't care so much about rank or fame, but he wants to help the military in order to be given his own station in life. Title and land. To create his own name. No one should have all that power. All right. And I believe that would be the poll. What is it he is after? Does he hate magic in general? Too many bad encounters, or perhaps an ethical view? Magic is something that should not be held privately. It's something that needs to be managed and controlled. Someone with magic has the power to destroy a city, and that is not something that should be in any man's hands. Perhaps he's had direct encounter with mages in the past, or has a general dislike of mages. Something that has driven him into this position. Instead, is it his most recent obsession? Counter-espionage, hunting down spies, those who would deceive or try to fight their way into his own men. Or finally, is he a simple man after title and land, trying to create his own place in the world, seeking privacy, a bit of power? Damn, I voted the wrong one. Well, it looks like we have a tie, which means this man's drives are very specific. They seem to be driven around people. Not so much magic in general, but those who use it. Spies and the like. People he sees as deceptive. I could see how a hate for deception could lead to both a hate of mages and spies. Or perhaps a magical assassin having attacked one's family could be something that has driven him into his current state. Yes. So now we must decide the origins of his hate. Has he had many encounters with mages? Hatred of unconventional people. Does he find deceptive people? Oh, unconventional. A bit of a ethical quandary there, but I'm fine with an antagonist having it. The origins of his hate. It is the unconventional are dangerous. What's his backstory? Exactly, Vulcan. That's kind of what we're figuring out now. A personal encounter. This, I would imagine, instead of, encounters with a lot of mages is personal, I would imagine that just be something that happens over and over and over again. So instead, I'd say a single great encounter. Something like a magical assassin attacking his family. Yeah, a rabid traditionalist, I think, would fall under the unconventional or dangerous. So a man who has been faced either himself or a dear loved one that has been killed by a magical assassin, I could see easily growing to hate both both mages and spies. And finally, a rival. Okay. I like a rivalry. He is driven instead by always comparing himself to someone that has made use of talents he didn't have. It's not that he's encountered a lot of bad mages, but those with inherent magical or deceptive abilities always get ahead of him. Perhaps he's more of a straightforward person, someone that finds the use of charm and magic to be cheating. I like these. I think that's a pretty good spread, but I'll give you guys one more minute to choose or to call out anything else you think would be the origins of his hatred. I'm thinking we have a good spread here. But I think this is a bit more of an intense one, so I'm going to increase the time a bit on this poll and get it out there. So, large family, having little privacy growing up, joining the military to have a job and having a little privacy, still has over the years developed a knack at seeing the flaws, hidden things. So, what are the origins of his hate? As he had many encounters with mages and found their personalities, actions, what they go about doing to be repugnant in one way or another. Is he a rabid traditionalist, someone who sees all unconventionality or breaks from a more traditional purpose to be dangerous? Mages are dangerous after all. Even if he's never encountered such, they have the potential for such destruction. And they're not even kept in records. They're simply allowed to go about growing strong. Did he have a single great encounter? Something that uprooted his very thoughts and beliefs? Something that changed him as a person? Or is it all driven by rivalry? Perhaps it's an individual, or perhaps it's been a constant pattern. Those who are deceptive, those with magical abilities, always escalate faster than him, always take the promotions he is owed, even though he can perform just as well as them without the use of spells. What is his origins of hatred? What has led him here? What do you all think? Well, this is looking... Gotta ask the most important question. You already got a sexy voice for him. We can definitely work on the voice, but it looks like rivalry has won out. So this is a man who I imagine now to be very straight-laced, very skilled. Perhaps he has a level of charm to him, but not in a deceptive fashion. He's not like, I suppose a good example would be the character from Inglourious Bastards, who is leaning on his charm and talking skills. While he is able to be a polite and dignified person, he sees trickery, lies, deception, the political game as unfair, as cheating, as trying to get around having actual talents. And those born with magic, or who are rich enough to be trained in it, are no better to him. Capitan Talarus. Or Capitan. I apologize. Capitan Talarus is a more honest person when it comes to it, no? He is a man who is skilled, highly intelligent, able to figure out many things from just a few pieces and puzzles. But quite obviously, with his constant rivalries, he has a bit of anger to his voice. He should, after all, be a much higher rank than he currently is, but he has no natural talent for magic. He has no inherent political connections, nor an ability to play the political game to his advantage in such a way that he could live with himself. Capitan Baudon Talarus, then, is a straight-laced man, someone that other soldiers can become friends with, but he will not exploit those friendships, nor will he try to push himself. Instead, he is a man angry with those above him, for those who surpass him with methods he sees as unfair or unimportant. I like this man. I like this Capitan Talaros. Capitan. Gotta get used to that. I like this Capitan Talaros. And I feel like his voice is finally coming a bit better to me. What do you all think of Baudon Talaros? Does his voice hold an edge of anger? The sense of skill of someone who should be in charge, but never quite reached the right position? Is this a man who will push, who will always create the opening he needs, but will not stoop to the underhanded political game to do it? Instead, will get there through his own achievements. Good evening to you. My name is Capitan Baudon Talarus. I have been employed with the Etron military for some years now. I originally was hired on as a simple soldier. My family had some connections, and my father had worked as a sergeant, so I was able to very quickly achieve a rank of similar quality to him. I was a very skilled combatant, but even more skilled at solving problems. As such, it was only 2 years into my military service that the officers above me began to take notice of my skills. And I was eventually brought into the special training of the Combat Guard. There I made quite a name for myself, at least so I thought, doing strong work. I very quickly took to the skills they were trying to teach us, but I never seemed quite able to keep up with certain other members of the school. There were those who knew better what magic was capable of, as they were either born or trained in it. Rich children, children with lucky connections to magical powers. A boy who could cast a magic spell to make a small amount of light would be elevated above me in the classes, even if he could not see a liar, bold-face, in front of him. Worse yet were the children with connections to wealthy families or influential nobles. They couldn't even show off a skill. They instead were elevated for their ability to lie about what they could do and be backed up by their family members. Still, I was so effective they could not deny me, even though I lacked the magic they desire from combat soldiers, even though I had no connections to elevate me to some cushy office position. I was able to make my name very well known within the combat, and I quickly rose from sergeant to lieutenant and eventually Capitaine Belarus. I now lead the 6th cohort within Roglev, and have made efforts to prove myself even more so here. The Tverfians do not send many military here to invade the city, so I have found a new use for my soldiers. Instead of hunting down or defending against non-existent mage warriors, we've begun searching for more insidious forces within the city. I believe there are spies here, perhaps aided by magic, perhaps not. Either way, I have the skills required to handle them, and I will find them. I will cleanse the city of any traitorous forces, no matter what I must do. I will prove that Belarus is more deserving than any of those people. I think the voice fits quite well. Yep. Thank you, Sour Cake. The French tardigrade is hidden different. Change is scary. Ready your weapons. So the party will cross this man. Good luck to them. I agree. I wish them the best of luck. But we are starting to bump up on time. Which, as you know... well, he's certainly itching to get himself a higher rank, and he might decide to do a bit of restructuring around a more egalitarian approach to the military than what has been traditionally used, though I don't think his reasons are entirely altruistic. But thank you all for helping me nail down his personality. Yep, Spring. Good session, I think. We've got a good layout going for the 3rd floor. We understand, Capitaine Belarus, quite a bit more now. And all that's left is for me to let you all know what will be happening next time. With back-to-back heist building sessions, I believe it is time we return to a story time. I need to get you all starting to get more and more caught up on what's going on in the session. We are still probably a good handful of weeks behind where the party actually is in the story. And I hope to get you all caught up before they encounter the full-fledged heist, or at least the upcoming events involving a very fungal hag. So, next week we're going to be going back on in to story time. But I do have one last question for you all. One last poll we're going to see is, what should next session be? Do we want a full story time? A concerted effort to get you guys caught up as much as I can within my usual 2-hour span. It'll be a lot of talking along the single line of the story, but it's something I can definitely do. We can also do a story and lore stream, where I'll pick another couple of nations or maybe an event within my homebrew world, and we can have it split half between the story of the party and half with a lore. The final option we have is going to be a half story, half characters I made session. One where I will of course be spending half the session talking about story time, much like the lore, but instead of plugging you in with world's lore, events, countries, how my world is shaped, I instead simply be going over some of the backstories or characters I've built in the past. Characters not in this story necessarily, but just sort of talking a bit about how I go about making a character, telling you some of the stories I've made for them, and showing you an array of backstories I've written, from the very dark to the more jovial. I believe those are our options now. And this will be the last poll of today's stream. I want to thank you all for coming, and thank you for helping me out with all this session building and figuring out some of the designs for the Milford estate. I know some of you aren't super familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, or like how a house is normally laid out, or military strategies and the like. And a lot of that I'm not super good at inherently either. So I always appreciate having you guys coming in and giving me your feedback, what you think needs to change, and shit you think would be really fun to throw at people. We have not had story for a while. I'm voting full story. Hell yeah. Love the stream, Eric, even if I didn't participate too much. Ah, that's okay, sour cake. As long as I'm entertaining you, I don't want to be like, you guys have to participate or the session won't work. I want to make sure I'm entertaining you guys. I just know that when it comes to D&D stuff, I couldn't imagine listening to someone without being a little involved. So I want to make sure you guys have the full opportunity to get in on that. But next time with story time, I'll be giving you all a nice big relaxation from having to be too into it. Golems, I need to learn the story through. Golems. I need to learn the story though. Ooh. We will see. But as I said, thank you all, and I hope you all enjoy these sessions. And if anybody actually has any ideas for something they'd like to see in the future, if your voice comes together, whether it's a PC or NPC, to me, that's the best part. Hell yeah. If there are any other types of, well, it looks like we're doing a full story stream next time. Don't let the Firefly hat get burnt. Don't worry, I won't. So, next time, we will do a concerted effort to push through a huge chunk of the story. I know in one session we won't be able to catch you guys all the way up, but we should be able to get a lot out of the way and get you guys really close to where the party currently is. Or at least through the entire next arc of the tale, which will include meeting everyone's favorite Warforged, Perch Karama. Though, I just want to take a couple of minutes to say thank you all for coming. If any of you ever have any ideas for a type of session you'd like to see in the future, I've done a lot of homebrew discussions in the past, which I have posted up on my archive. I've now done several encounter and heist builds with you all. I love doing lore talks and story times, but there's another type of session we haven't done that you all would be really interested in seeing. Please do not hesitate to either comment it or even feel free to private message me at any time. When it comes to the D&D stuff, I love chatting with you guys. I love sharing my ideas, and I'm just really open to seeing what kind of you all want to see out of the D&D streams. Well, there's an item which is glue in the book, so I doubt he removed it. True. Very true. But I think the time has come that I must wish you all a good night. I hope to see you all next weekend as you join me for a heavy bit of story time. I take you up on the DM to here or somewhere else. I have questions about a boss, but need help getting it sorted. Of course, Vulcan. And if you ever want, like if you guys have any things you've been planning that you want to discuss with me, you are also free to ask me if I'd be willing to discuss it on stream, because I have no problem bringing up a map you've built, characters you've made, homebrew you've designed, and just spending a stream having myself explain out loud to you what I think, what I do, and having chat get in on it as well. But yeah, Vulcan, feel free to DM me here or anywhere else that you feel most comfortable with. And I'd love to see what you're doing and tell you what I would do for it. Just kidding, what's happening? I'm sorry, Ben, but we're ending stream right now. Let's see here. Would you ever do a D&D session with the mods of the streams? Okay, so guys, I do have to end it, but that question actually hit a little close to something that I might want to show just for a moment. So, in the past, I did a one-off session in a dungeon that I had designed to be made by an absolutely insane man. And I've been working to rebuild that dungeon using some of the information I have now on a much larger map structure to allow me to get a very interesting event with it. But I haven't built an idea of exactly who I was going to run it with. Part of me had been thinking of talking to a few friends of mine. Another part of me knew a friend streamer that some of you might know that has some mods that might be in need of a reward, and I'd be willing to run for that. Or I might be able to be convinced to talk to a few of you all. And in a few weeks' time, as you can see, there's a lot of this map that I actually need to go through. Perhaps we can figure out a way to do a bit of a live session. Though, I don't know. We'll have to see. Perhaps I can be convinced in the future to offer you guys a little more direct way to be involved in how I DM a session. But for now, I'm going to have to wish you all a good night and leave you with a very curious cliffhanger. Bye-bye.